What's going on, everyone? Welcome into the Cleveland Browns Report. Happy Friday. Coming up on today's show, we're going to talk about Andrew Berry's press conference and get some notable takeaways from it for all of you on Kareem Hunt possibly returning. The door was not shut on that front. Plus, he was asked about Jedrick Wills' fifth-year option along with Perrion Winfrey and some other just draft paraphernalia, if you will. Now, an interesting anecdote that came out of the press conference was he talked about how the Browns go about evaluating prospects and whatnot, and he shared a little funny story about what's faster, a horse or a goose. Now, on the surface, you'd think, well, this is a horse no-brainer, but the goose can fly, a horse can't fly. A goose can swim, a horse can't swim, but a horse runs faster. So while maybe you could make an argument for the goose because it can do more than a horse, does a goose swim very fast? No. Does it fly very high? No. Does it run very fast? No, mostly just waddles. So just because a horse can't swim or fly, it sure can run. So the point he was trying to make is when they're looking at prospects, if a draft prospect can do some things but just not so well at them, but one guy can do one thing really well, well, they call those horse traits, and they look to draft those types of players because when you get a bunch of horse traits into one room, you're going to have a bunch of talented players. So I thought that was a really interesting anecdote that he shared during his press conference. Now, he was asked about Kareem Hunt possibly returning to Cleveland, and here's what he said. I don't know if we have necessarily shut the door on anything. We're not playing games until September, so we'll remain open-minded to anything that can help the team. Now, Kareem Hunt has not garnished a ton of attention so far in free agency. Not even Bleacher Report has done an article about best fits for Kareem Hunt, it feels like. He's coming off, in one way or another, his worst statistical season of his NFL career. 3.8 yards per carry back in 2022. That was a career low. So, could we see a Kareem Hunt return to the Browns? It's a little unlikely, right? I mean, last season was not one to remember for the former Toledo player. 223 carries, 468 rushing yards, 210 receiving yards. Yeah, you can point fingers all across the board and say, well, when Ethan Posick went down, the offensive line went to crap, Wyatt Teller had a bad second half of the season, Kevin Stefanski was not using Kareem Hunt correctly, yada, yada, yada. At the end of the day, 3.8 yards a carry when you're towards the end of your 20s, that's not going to get a lot of attention from GMs. So sound off. Should the Browns re-sign Kareem Hunt? If you want to bring back Kareem Hunt, type his jersey number, 27. Or if you're ready to kind of move on from 27, give me a P for pass. Sadly, as a one-time minister of Keep Kareem Hunt in Cleveland, I think it's time to turn the page and see what you have in Jerome Ford or a rookie. Because Andrew Berry did talk about drafting a running back potentially, although they really like the makeup of their current running back room. So if you don't think Nick Chubb is going to be here for sure, and I mean 100% in 2024, well, maybe it is a good time to see what you have in Jerome Ford and a rookie as the future running backs of this team. So I love Kareem Hunt for what he did for the Browns for a good stretch, but I'm ready to turn the page and see what some future guys can offer. Next up on the show, let's talk about Jed Wills' fifth-year option. So the deadline to exercise his fifth-year option is May 1st. I've seen some people say May 2nd. I don't really get how it could be May 1st or 2nd. It's May 1st, but maybe it's May 1st at 4 p.m. Eastern time like the NFL operates. Now, could Cleveland be waiting to see how the draft plays out? Is that the reason why they are dragging their feet on picking up his fifth-year option? Or is it just not in their cards all along and you're going to find out on May 2nd they never intended to pick up his fifth year? Now, the cap hit for 2024 for Jed Wills, if they do exercise that fifth-year option, is $14.1 million. Now, I'm going to give you my takes and analysis on this in just a brief moment, but today's Browns Report is sponsored by Z-Biotics. Let's face it, after you guys hit me with a bunch of super chats like yesterday's live show, I do not always bounce back well the next day. Now, that is until I found Z-Biotics. Z-Biotics Pre-Alcohol Probiotic is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. ZBiotics produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. It's designed to work like your liver, but in your gut, where you need it most. Drink ZBiotics before drinking alcohol, drink responsibly, and get a good night's sleep to feel your best tomorrow. Give ZBiotics a try for yourself. Go to zbiotics.com/chatsports to get 15% off your first order when you use code CHATSPORTS at checkout. ZBiotics is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee, so if you're ever unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/chatsports and use code CHATSPORTS at checkout for 15% off. Thank you, ZBiotics, for sponsoring today's Browns Report. So, getting back to the Jed Wills conversation. Has he looked like a guy worthy of $14.1 million? No, not really. Now, $14.1 million in terms of left tackle money, that's not even top 10. So they're not paying him to be a top 10 left tackle with that type of payday. But the Browns might view this as a worthy investment to see if he can become a franchise left tackle. To get one more year of control on a rookie contract and learn if Jed Wills can be a long-term franchise tackle. He's had a slow start to his career. He has not been unplayable, right? He has been an undoubted starter. And honestly, for 32 NFL teams, he'd probably start at left tackle for 24 of them, 22 to 24. There's probably 8 or so better left tackles, maybe 10 actually. But the point being, though, is that Jed Wills might not be a top 10 left tackle right now, but is $14.1 million a good enough investment to learn if he can become that? Whereas if you don't pick up his 5th-year option and he balls out next year and you go, well, do we definitely want to keep you now? Well, $14.1 million is going to be way less than what you have to pay him. He could be looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of $16 to $18 million. So a bit of a risk reward right there when it comes to picking up his 5th year. My prediction is I think the Browns are waiting to see how the draft plays out before they pick up Jed Wills' 5th-year option. Because what if there are like 1 or 2 offensive linemen they love in this draft class, have an absolute big hard-on for, but they're not quite sure if they're going to be there at pick 74. So they want to wait and see. And if they don't get their number 1 or 2 offensive tackle prospects, well, then they go back and they pick up Jed Wills' 5th year. Now, here are some day 2/early day 3 tackle targets that maybe the Browns are looking at and thinking, if we get this guy, let's draft him, and that's going to be our Jed Wills replacement after one season. Dawand Jones from Ohio State, Matthew Bergeron from Syracuse. I think those are both round 2 players. So if they slip into round 3, maybe that's what the Browns are waiting to see. Tyler Steen from Alabama, Blake Freeland from BYU, Carter Warren from Pitt, Jaelyn Duncan from Maryland, Nick Saldiveri from Old Dominion, and Braeden Daniels out of Utah. Those are some prime day 2/early day 3 prospects. Now, one to keep an eye on is Blake Freeland from BYU. He is 6'8", 302 pounds. There is always a huge offensive tackle in every draft class, and everyone foams at the mouth over them. They don't always play out to be the best tackles in football, but Blake Freeland, a 4-year starter at BYU, 41 game starts. I mean, just think about what is the best position coach the Browns have. It is without a doubt their offensive line coach. So maybe they are trusting their coaching staff to coach up a guy who is 6'8" and go, we can't always grow 6'8" tackles. So if you can get the hand technique and the footwork down, we can get you a great raw prospect who has 41 career starts under his belt for BYU. I think offensive tackle, to summarize this entire segment of the show, might be this year's Martin Emerson pick. Remember last year when the Browns picked Martin Emerson, pick 68, I think? And all of us collectively were like, WTF, cornerback was probably the one spot I thought we were all good at, right? You have Denzel Ward and Greg Newsome. Why are we drafting more corners? Well, maybe they are just going best player available. Even if it doesn't make sense immediately, They think this is a good pick for the future. So keep in mind that it might not make a lot of sense right now, but then again, it didn't when they picked Emerson, and it worked out pretty well for them last season. Now, injuries sort of paved the way for that to happen. They also had Greedy Williams on their roster for crying out loud. So if Jed Wills and Jack Conklin play every single snap like you hope tackles do, you might not see this guy the first season, but this could be a pick down the line. Now, some updates on Perrion Winfrey. AB did not rule out anything involving Perrion moving forward when asked about whether or not he'd be on the team. He said he is on the team at this moment. Now, he did not get very specific. We know Andrew Berry and really all coaches and GMs don't love talking to the media, so he kept it short and he joked about that. But he is currently with the team in Berea at the moment, so he is somewhat still involved with the organization. I'm not quite sure what needs to play out for them to have an absolute definitive resolution on what they want to do with Winfrey moving forward. Whether they are waiting to see if he will get arrested, whether he'll get convicted of these charges or if they'll get dropped or what. Now, here's what Berry said on Winfrey. We haven't made any changes in terms of his roster status. We'll deal with that matter internally and make the appropriate decision for the organization. So like I was saying, I don't know if the Browns are waiting to see how this unfolds legally and they're going to make their decision based on how the courts somewhat make their decision, or they're just waiting for this to kind of blow over, right? As news tends to do, and are waiting for the NFL draft to come around, and we got all these new draft picks, and no one's going to even be thinking about Perrion Winfrey. Now, something to consider is this. With the blowback they got, and that's putting it lightly, for the Deshaun Watson deal and the trade and the contract and all that ensued, you would think that maybe incidents like this, where it's another domestic violence, well, not another, but another what's the word? Like criminal, if I'm using that correctly. Clearly, I'm not a very good lawyer. But another instance, how about that, involving a woman, maybe the Browns would use that as an opportunity to show that they want to make a clear stance on where they are or where they stand when it comes to incidents involving women. So I thought they might use this as an incident to improve their image, right? Can we kind of somewhat piece together what I'm trying to say there? So I thought this could be a spot to maybe improve their brand and not be the team that has a bunch of guys who keep having legal run-ins with females. Now, Perrion Winfrey last season was not very promising, if we're being honest, at least at the beginning. Now, down the stretch, you can see his PFF grades from the left-hand side of your screen is what the entirety of 2022 looked like for him. And on the right-hand side is what he did over the last 6 weeks of the season, where he showed some potential, some improvement, right? He had some major maturity and character issues early on, from being a healthy scratch to riding a scooter into a lamppost and getting concussion to being suspended by the team. But down the stretch, he started to pick up his play and pick up his act. Now, I am all in the business of second chances and maybe even third chances to a degree. But I wonder, how many strikes does Perrion Winfrey get, right? Between being suspended by the team in week 2 to healthy scratch for 2 weeks to just bonehead things that get you injured, like riding a scooter into a lamppost. It makes you wonder, at what point is it just not going to work out for him in the NFL? Because the NFL is the National Football League and also the not-for-long league. So at one point, do you realize this is just not going to be a good fit for him? I wonder if this would be the straw that broke the camel's back. So predict it for me. Will Winfrey make the 2023 roster? Give me a Y for yes or N for no. Part of me says I hope so, because I hope he can grow and put these issues behind him and capitalize on the incredible opportunity that he has in front of him to play for the Cleveland Browns and play in the NFL. But it has not been a glamorous first 12 months for him so far in professional football. Now, before we get on out of here, if you were with us yesterday for our live show, it was one for the ages. Now, we go live every single week here on the channel, Thursdays at 5 o'clock Eastern, so you can see what it looks like making a live Cleveland Browns report. And we had a battle with our Steelers Talk channel here at Chat Sports in Super Chats, with the winner getting to go live during the NFL Draft. And here are the MVPs from that Super Chat battle. Keith Niergarter, I mean, a generational performance, if you will. Kelly Bale was good for like 4 threes off the bench. I mean, just catch and shoot. Miguel got it all started. Christopher was just routinely supplying key super chats. Brez Boy, when it looked like we were down and out, with a huge overall life-saving pulse, and then Lawrence Fairclough with a huge first-time super chat. And now, without more commentary, I would like to present you guys with the moment that we surpassed Steelers talk in super chats during our live show. We're almost there! We're almost there! We're almost there! The Browns are going to go to the Super Bowl! Come on! A miracle in the works! Who wants to score the winning touchdown in overtime? We did it! We did it! The Browns! Let's go 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 Browns! Yes! This was the grin I had when I walked out of the studio and just stared down Jack Sperry from Steelers Talk after he, for the second time, requested to battle us in super chats during a live show. And not once, but twice, with an amazing comeback effort at the end, took down Steelers Talk. Thank you so much to everyone who partook in that super chat battle, any other previous super chat battle, or has just been a part of Browns Report live shows. You guys are real ones. Thank you so much. So make sure to tune in for future live Browns Reports. We go live every single week on Thursdays at 5 o'clock Eastern. It's a blast. If you've never tuned in before, do yourself a favor, set the alarm, and tune in next week because I guarantee you will have a great time. We won't have one this upcoming Thursday because the whole NFL draft is going on. But every Thursday, 5 o'clock Eastern, we go live here on the channel. Make sure to hit me up on Twitter, by the way, if you have not already, at Matthew Petey. If you were a first-time super chatter during that live show, do not fret. The letters are in the mail, so make sure to check your mailbox in, 3, 4, 5 days from now.